literally until the last minute, maybe minute and a half of last night's AEW Dynamite, I was convinced that I was not going to be ordering this weekend's Ring of Honor Final Battle pay-per-view. There's nothing for me to watch, is what I decided. Hey, Chris Graham here. We're going to talk some AEW wrestling. Um, I'm going to end up buying the pay-per-view now because of what happened in that last minute to minute and a half. But AEW still doesn't deserve my money. They're going to get it nonetheless because they're going to give us another FTR-Briscoes match, which we could have one of those every week, and I wouldn't mind. This one's going to be a dog collar match. I'm not so sure about the need for a gimmick with FTR and Briscoes. Just throw them in the ring and let them wrestle. That's all you need to do. You don't need to gimmick it up. But we're going to get an FTR Briscoes match, so therefore I'll be watching. Everything that happened leading to this made no sense. FTR had to do a clean job of the Acclaimed, and I don't mind the Acclaimed going over in this match. In fact, I mean, I expected that to be the case. Did not expect the Acclaimed's tag team title reign to come to a quick end after just winning the titles not that long ago, a couple months ago, right? But it should have been something that was it should have been booked better. Let's just say that. Instead of having FTR, because I thought that that's how that match was going to end when it was booked last week. Hey, they're going to use that to bring the Briscoes in. A way to do this that probably would have made more sense for everybody involved would be to have the Briscoes somehow appear, even if they just stood on the stage and a distracted FTR and there was a roll-up pin. You could still say, hey, that wasn't a clean win. The Acclaimed, that could set up a match down the line for FTR and the Acclaimed a few months from now, and there'd be no legitimate claim. Hey, we already beat you clean. But the way it worked out, it was just a clean win. The Briscoes didn't even show up, and for some reason, the Gunn Club was used to come out on camera from backstage and say they had Christmas gifts for FTR, and they opened up a card and it said something about the Briscoes want to wrestle you or whatever else. So the Briscoes didn't make an appearance. This match is booked at the very end. It's going to get me to buy, sure. So that worked, at least in that sense. If you have to assume that the ratings last night were good, haven't seen the ratings yet. If people haven't heard that, if fans missed out last night's show for some reason or the other, you could have had a few weeks to build this up. You could have, if you're booking shows, then you want people to actually pay money for them. Use weeks to lead up to this. The Full Gear pay-per-view, yes, was less than a month ago, but this is supposed to be a different company. It's not. Ring of Honor is whatever Tony Khan says. He's putting them on AEW TV all the time. The AEW YouTube shows. He doesn't have separate shows for Ring of Honor. So why not build up something for more than a couple of days? But that's another question, right? Not even having the Briscoes on the show is an issue. Having FTR losing a roll-up pin is an issue. Cash Wheeler was at the moment of the pin. He had put a series of, devastating moves, and then all of a sudden he's getting rolled up in pins. It makes no sense. Having the Gun Kids were on the screen. Also in the match, there was for some reason a quick video showing us that Sanjay Dutt and Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, who they're trying to make that group into a tag team of some sort. We're watching the match on the screen, so we're supposed to care. I guess they're going to go against the Acclaimed at some point soon. They're not even a tag team. You have so many actual tag teams? Why have a makeshift tag team involved in this? Tony Khan doesn't get this either. He put Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee together and made them the tag team champions for a few months. You've got so many actual tag teams. You don't need to have makeshift tag teams. Doesn't make any sense to me. This Ring of Honor show is Saturday at 4:00. And, my wife was asking me, why is it Saturday at 4:00? Why? That's an odd time. I had to look it up. The schedule for the pay-per-view company actually has a Manny Pacquiao exhibition boxing match at 8:00. So the pay-per-view company, I know how these things work. Those who are new, I actually worked for a brief time, 6 months, about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, with a company that put on a pay-per-view show, a wrestling pay-per-view show. The pay-per-view company tells you when you can do your show. And they'll give you the dates that are open and then the times. And so the pay-per-view company says, we're going to make more money off of a Manny Pacquiao exhibition match than we're going to make off of your Ring of Honor pay-per-view. And actually, I don't doubt them. Manny Pacquiao is a washed-up guy from a long time ago, but it's still going to get more than the 40 or 50,000 buyers that Ring of Honor is going to get. Part of the reason for that is the card for Final Battle is pretty much, I mean, if it was a 2-hour Rampage, aside from the FTR-Briscoes, this show would be a good 2-hour Rampage. Chris Jericho, Claudio Castagnoli for the Ring of Honor title. The stip is that Castagnoli has to join Jericho's Jericho Appreciation Society. If Castagnoli loses that match, as a result of that being thrown out there, that's what's going to happen. This is a criticism that's thrown at Tony Khan a lot, but when he has an idea, he really goes with it multiple times until he kills it. We already have something where a match was lost by someone who then had to become a member of that person's stable, and it happened recently, and it's still ongoing. Matt Hardy happened to be the mouthpiece of or the whatever with the Firm, Ethan Page and the Firm, and that's ongoing. It was featured on the show last night. So if you're already doing that with that, you don't have to do it here to do something else. But anyway, it's not even a fun thing anyway. Back when Baby Doll had to be Dusty Rhodes' valet for 30 days back in the 80s, that was fine. But having Claudio Castagnoli have to endure months of being Chris Jericho's toady, I'm not. I mean, Claudio's too good for this. Whatever. We also have Daniel Garcia versus Wheeler Yuta for the millionth time. This one for the Ring of Honor Pure Championship. No sizzle there. The women's champ Mercedes Martinez defending against Athena. That would be a good YouTube match, not even a good Rampage match. I'm sorry to say that. Samoa Joe is defending against Juice Robinson. He's defending his Ring of Honor Tag Team Champion, TV Championship. And then a supposed grudge match. I don't really know the background on this, I have to admit, but Swerve Strickland, Keith Lee versus Shane Taylor, JD Griffey. I know nothing about Shane Taylor and JD Griffey. So this is a $39.99 pay-per-view, and it's worth that for one match. Some AEW news notes, observations. There's a lot more observations in our news and notes. Last night, William Regal was formally written off AEW TV in an odd segment in which he revealed in an interview. Now, take notes on this. You saw it yourself, so but I'm getting ready to say. We were told it was taped 2 weeks ago. Well, it wasn't. You didn't need to tell us that. He helped MJF win the world title at Full Gear. Okay. And then he was attacked by MJF afterwards, which made no sense either. But he says that he helped MJF beat John Moxley, one of his guys in the Blackpool Combat Club, for the world title. One, to put the target on MJF's back. That makes sense, right? Two, to teach one last lesson to his guys at the Blackpool Combat Club to watch their backs. Okay. And then the third was to get the Blackpool Combat Club to realize they didn't need him anymore and to let him go. It's almost like I wrote this in a column. It's almost like he was reading Mad Libs out loud. Let's just insert a bunch of things that don't make any sense. This is William Regal. You don't need to give him a cockamamie backstory. Just, I don't know. If you're going to do his exit, you could have just done it last week, and even that didn't make any sense. You could have just let him go. We all know why he's going. He's leaving AEW after, at the end of the year, after his year here, to go back to WWE. Now, the news came out yesterday. This was interesting news that Tony Khan made that release a conditional release. And the condition is he can't appear on WWE TV until at least 2024. So, nice news. He's letting him go to WWE. He said in a press call yesterday that William Regal had indicated that he wanted to go back to WWE because his son had signed a developmental deal with NXT, and he wanted to be there to help train his son to be a pro wrestler. And so Khan got some pats on the back for that. But then, oh yeah, by the way, he's not going to be on TV for a year. So, and that's what you can do. You got a contract. You sign that tells you that, any question about how long the deal was for Regal, there was speculation. Was it just a 6-month deal, a 9-month deal, a 1-year deal? It was a longer term deal. It was at least a 2-year deal. And Khan is going to exercise some of his rights under that deal. So that's hard business there. The only good booking last night, and it was really good booking, and it had a little bit to do with wrestling. Ricky Starks won the stupid battle royal. This Dynamite diamond ring thing, I've never understood. Who cares? But anyway, he won the battle royal to he's already wrestling MJF for the title next week because he won the ladder match. Or I'm saying these things out loud, makes me want to shake my head, which I just did. They're going to have a title match next week on Winter is Coming, the name for next week's Dynamite show. MJF, great on the mic. Ricky Starks, we know to be great on the mic. Don't get to hear him on the mic very much. They had an awesome back and forth last night on the mic after Ricky Starks had won that battle royal. And what I loved about this, Ricky Starks is not winning the world title. The title reign for MJF is going to last several months, if not longer than that. But what this did was, one, another thing that's said often about Tony Khan booking is he'll just throw two guys into a match and have it be a good match. And I'm thinking of Lance Archer getting a title shot last year against Hangman Adam Page. It came out of nowhere. Archer had been on YouTube TV for months wrestling, or the YouTube TV shows wrestling for months. All of a sudden he gets a title shot. He gets a title shot, and then he loses, and then he's not on TV again for months. Stuff like that. All of a sudden a guy coming out of nowhere to get a world title shot. I wish that this had been built up for weeks leading up to it, because we knew at the pay-per-view, that's 3 weeks ago or so, 3 or 4 weeks ago, that Starks had won and thus was going to get this title shot. These guys, two guys, should have been doing, these verbal tete-a-tetes that long, but we got it last night. Okay. So, didn't get what we wanted, which was weeks of buildup, but we got a good buildup. Those two guys, and what it does for Ricky Starks is he's going to lose the match, but hopefully the booking of that match leads to some controversy. MJF needs to be a chicken shit heel anyway. He needs to be a Ric Flair kind of heel champion where, he puts the guy over even when he retains the title. Ric Flair did that masterfully for years, putting baby faces over and elevating them by giving them a long match and, several near falls, and make it believable that in the context of the match, that the babyface might actually walk away with his belt, get the fans eating into it. Because what that does then is when that babyface leaves that match, even in defeat, they're elevated. All of a sudden now this guy is on the level or close to the level of the world champion. And then Ricky Starks, smart booking. I don't know if I give credit to Tony Khan for knowing to do smart booking, but if he does smart booking, Ricky Starks doesn't lose for months after this, and he goes out and tears up the division. And down the line, he can be a contender again. AEW needs to build up as many baby faces as possible to make it so that this MJF, because really, you think about it, I guess Kenny Omega was a heel champion, but that wasn't a good reign. They didn't have a lot of baby faces built up to go against him. John Moxley was a face champion, that's this company, and I guess Jericho was the original heel champion, and again, it just felt like he was out there, and then they eventually found somebody to beat him. This company feels like it's got a lot more good heels than it's got good faces. Certainly, faces at the top of the level that can compete for world titles. And so, if you're going to go with a heel champion, go with the NWA WCW approach. And I hate even saying WCW, but let's just go with the Crockett approach to a world champion. Actually, the NWA, when the champion was had to travel the territories, the idea was heel, build up baby faces, and the baby faces take runs at the champ. And at the end of the day, you're rooting for the chase. And eventually one of those chases will lead to a championship win, and that'll be glorious. Starks in the mix. That's good to see. Two things about the Samoa Joe Darby Allin match. One, Darby Allin, you're not going to be able to walk when you're 30 if you keep wrestling like that. And he's 29, turns 30 next month. So when I say that, I'm saying that knowing that. He did that dive it's not even a suicide dive. That missile dive that he does, and he missed, knew he was going to miss, of course, but I mean, he took so many hard bumps from Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe was using him as a rag doll. Allen does this every match. He doesn't need to do it. Do it every once in a while. Just make it special. When you do it every time, it's not special. It's just part of what you do. It's like Ricky Morton doing an arm drag every match. And learn from the old guys who did that kind of thing 20, 30 years ago and now can't walk. We want to see Darby Allin in wrestling for more than a couple more years. And so that's the message there. For Samoa Joe, this isn't Samoa Joe's fault. Post-match beatdown, he's beating down Darby Allin after defending his title, winning. He's got a match, Samoa Joe does, with Juice Robinson on Saturday. So the post-match beatdown, Juice Robinson is going to come out and make the save, right? It was Wardlow. Why was Wardlow out there? I understand Wardlow is also feuding Samoa Joe for some reason. There's 150 wrestlers in this company. Only 20 get featured on the shows on a weekly basis. But we've got to have one guy hold two belts. We don't have anything for Miro to do, for example. We have to have one guy hold two belts. So Samoa Joe is feuding with Juice Robinson over the Ring of Honor TV title, and he's feuding with Wardlow over essentially the AEW TV title, the TNT title. Wardlow comes out. I understand. He's feuding with Samoa Joe. There's a pay-per-view in 3 days. Now it's 2 days away. That's the guy who should have come out and made the save. I don't even think I have to say that. What in the hell? That makes I keep saying makes no sense. The Jamie Hayter sit-down interview with Tony Schiavone. So for weeks, she was clamoring, why aren't you interviewing me? You're talking to Saraya. He talked to Britt Baker. I think we found out why she doesn't get sit-down interviews. God love Jamie Hayter. The crowd decided a few months ago they wanted her to have the belt, and Tony Khan listened and gave her the belt, the women's belt. There's a reason she's booked not to talk. There's a reason she's with Britt Baker. Britt Baker talks to the group. Last night, my wife pointed it out first when we were watching it. She said, did you see that hard edit there? We worked in the TV business, right? So hard edit, yeah. And then every time they cut away, it was a hard and not even a very well done edit by the people in the production truck or whoever was doing what. This was a sit-down interview. So they ostensibly shot footage for how many ever minutes and spliced it into like a minute and a half is what they ended up getting. And she couldn't even get it all in one take. So if you have to know why, that's why she doesn't get to talk a lot. And it's almost like, I said this in a column, it's almost like whoever thought we needed her to complain her way into getting the sit down really didn't do her any favors. And then I put in parentheses, depending on who that was, maybe that was the plan. I mean, I don't know who it was who talked her into, and not just talked her, but talked Tony Khan into doing this for her. But it's almost like that person's ulterior motive was to say, she shouldn't be the champion because she can't talk. I don't know if it's Britt. I don't know who it is, but that made it clear. On the flip side of the women's division, Jade Cargill, why is she still the TBS champion? Why isn't she the world champion? That's interesting. The TBS title picture and the world title picture, they're like different orbits. I mean, those people there's not even interplay there, right? So Jade Cargill is right now the most over woman in I'd say all of wrestling. I mean, the look she's got the heel persona. WWE's ruined Becky Lynch. They haven't used Charlotte Flair for months. Who cares about Ronda Rousey? She can't wrestle. She doesn't want to. And Sasha Banks has been gone for a long time. So WWE's got nothing going on right now. AEW has decided that Britt Baker, needs some time behind the spotlight. Jade Cargill, put the belt on her. Put the big belt on her. Figure out a way to do it without making her lose so that she continues that unbeaten streak. Give Jamie Hayter the TBS title. Who cares about and have the orbit switch, basically. Have the solar systems go in different directions. Jade Cargill needs to be the world champion. She can't wrestle right yet like the world champion, but you can still work around that. She's the one with potential mass appeal. That's what I'll say about that. She's the one who can appeal to your casual fans. I don't know who Jamie Hayter appeals to except for the very hardcore. So nothing against Jamie Hayter. It's just that, she's fine in the ring. And she's horrible on the mic. And Jade Cargill is fine in the ring, but great on the mic and has the look. She looks like she should be a world champion women's wrestler. There you go. Okay, so I don't know. It's Thursday. I don't know if we'll have any more wrestling talk or writing until the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. And I don't like doing this. I love wrestling. I want to be the biggest AEW fan, and I have been for the last 3 years. I've been really disappointed the last 3 months. So I hate having to trash so much. But, I anticipate that I'll be underwhelmed even by the match I'm buying that show for, because you don't need dog collars on these guys. But anyway, I look forward to at least the fact that they're matching up FTR and the Briscoes. We'll talk about the rest of the show. We'll talk about Rampage, and we'll get ready for next week, which is the Winter is Coming show on Dynamite next week. So, any questions for me? Of course, go to AugustaFreePress.com for the latest wrestling news, but also the latest sports news, latest news. But if you have any questions for me, comments, things you want me to address in a future podcast, feel free to email me at Chris@AugustaFreePress.com.